The year is 2022. Blumhouse releases The Black Phone. Ended up being a commercial success with great reviews and even better audience reactions. 2023. Blumhouse announces The Black Phone 2 with the returning cast including Ethan Hawke as the grabber, along with co-writer and director Scott Derrickson. Interesting. Where could they go with this? Is it going to be a prequel? Or is this just a cash grab? 2025 rolls around. After some strong marketing and even stronger word of mouth from early screenings, was The Black Phone 2 either of those things? No and no. But I had the chance to see it yesterday. What did I think? I thought this movie beat some ass. So let's go ahead and jump right into the positives. I think that the acting in this movie was just as good, if not better, than the first movie. The first movie did have compelling characters, I felt, but the standout in this one was Madeleine McGraw, who played the sister Gwen. I thought that she was actually a standout character in the first movie, especially with how young she was at the time. But in this one, she becomes a bit more of a central character. And the character of Finn, who was our lead character in the original film, doesn't necessarily become a secondary character, but Gwen definitely takes the wheel in this story. And of course, Ethan Hawke is the grabber. The man's just legendary in the role. I mean, even though this is a second movie, he absolutely kills it. This is a terrifying character that I couldn't really see anybody else playing. Something else that I absolutely loved in this movie were the dream sequences and how they were stylized. Now, dream sequences really can go either way in horror movies. They could be either very well done and contribute to the story, or they could just be there to kind of build up a jump scare and just have that moment where the jump scare happens and the character wakes up. And that was just something to fill up a minute and a half of the movie. In this one, since this film was heavily inspired by Nightmare on Elm Street, particularly Dream Warriors, which was the third movie, the concept of dreams is a heavy thing in this movie. And Scott Derrickson decided to stylize it in 8mm footage, kind of reminiscing to his 2012 movie Sinister. And I thought it was just a very creative choice on his part because it very much put the audience in kind of a darker, grimier version of what's going on. It didn't just look like it was almost like the real world just taking place in a dream. I feel like that's very boring, but what Scott Derrickson did, I thought was a very cool and well executed idea and very much brought a different kind of uneasiness to those moments in the movie. And finally, for positives, this movie doesn't hold back. I'm not just talking about the emotional scenes throughout the movie, but the violence itself. Now, there are certain things that happen in this movie that will probably turn some of the audience off. And it's things that I haven't really seen too much since maybe Terrifier 3, but not as graphic as Terrifier 3. But I put this as a positive because they went for it. They took a chance, and although it might not work for everybody, I thought that it did well showing how evil the grabber really is. And you can probably guess what I'm hinting at, even if you haven't seen the movie. More of the mixed aspects, I would say, is there is a lot of exposition in this movie. It's a much more mystery-centric movie compared to the first one, where the first one was very grounded with the supernatural elements added to it. This one is very supernatural with grounded elements. So quite literally flipped it on its head. And there were a lot of scenes where I felt the characters were just explaining the situation. I don't know if it's because they needed to fill up the runtime or if they thought that the story they were going for needed to be laid out for all of us to see. But there were times where I'm like, this is slowing down everything. And it didn't work in a handful of scenes, I thought. There were also noticeable plot holes, not massive ones, but as I say, noticeable throughout the movie, or scenes where I felt like how the characters were reacting. Like, I know I need to suspend my disbelief because obviously it's a movie, it's a horror supernatural movie, but something would happen and a character would react, and I would think to myself, I don't feel like that's how one would actually react in real life. And due to some of these things, the story does take a while to get to where most people want it to be. The grabber doesn't show up until a little bit later in the movie, not too late, not quite in the middle, but it lays out the foundation of the story before he really comes in. But when those scenes happen, when the grabber is there, he's a terrifying character. And that goes back to positive with Ethan Hawke absolutely killing it. As for my negatives, and it's a small negative, I felt like part of the story struggle was the fact that the movie answered a lot of questions that I feel the audience wasn't really asking from the first movie. Now, what they do answer, they make work. But there's a lot of stuff that I just feel like would have been a lot scarier had we not known that. Or was very much like, okay, I see why you would put that in this story, but it really wasn't needed. It was just a little bit of something to kind of add to the character motivation, which I guess I see the logic behind it. But I don't know, I feel like there were a couple times where I'm like, okay, this is just, we didn't need to know that. Ultimately though, as I mentioned in the beginning, I thought the movie was awesome. I think the two things that it really gets right is, one, justifying its existence, and two, being a worthy enough follow-up to where if I did like a double feature of The Black Phone and The Black Phone 2, I feel like the story will be cohesive enough to where it'll still feel like a full-fledged story and not just two very polar opposite movies. Black Phone 2 does a good job of mirroring the first film and kind of flipping it on its head, but doing it in a creative way, which I think a lot of horror movies unfortunately kind of suffer from when it comes to their sequels. Because the Black Phone 2 didn't tread on old waters, really. It didn't just try to do the exact same thing a second time. It took a lot of chances, and while some I think they reached a little bit too far, most of them I feel like they succeeded overall in what they were planning on doing and what they were trying to do. But with that out of the way, did you guys go see The Black Phone 2? Are you planning on it? If you haven't yet, are you kind of waiting till streaming or waiting until somebody you know, gives you the thumbs up and saying, no, this is worth it? Let us know down below. We love hearing from you guys. We're happy with all the responses we've been getting lately. We want to keep that up. We want to stay engaged with you guys. But once again, thanks for hanging out. Until next time, I'll see you later.